The world is changing. China just slapped an extra 34% tariffs on $143 billion of US goods, pushing the total to 125%. Perhaps the 34 number is a jab at Donald Trump's 34 felony charges. It has also launched a new 1.2 trillion yuan system that can bypass SWIFT. China is a nation that has undergone a transformation of unprecedented scale and speed. For decades, China played by the rules of the West, patiently building its economy and integrating itself into the global system. But the game has changed. The old order, with its inherent biases and inequalities, is crumbling. China is stepping forward, confidently asserting its own vision for the future. This is not a move born of aggression, but of necessity. Let's get into it. China's recent economic moves, particularly the imposition of 125% tariffs on certain US goods and the launch of its digital yuan, have sent shockwaves through the global economy. These bold actions are not merely reactive measures, but part of a larger, carefully considered strategy. They are a clear signal that China is willing to play hardball to defend its interests and reshape the global economic landscape. China is not seeking to replace one hegemon with another. Its goal is not domination, but rather the creation of a more level playing field. The recent decision by China to impose 125% tariffs on certain US goods, while significant, should not be misconstrued as an act of aggression. It is, in fact, a measured and proportionate response to the ongoing trade dispute initiated by the United States. These tariffs are not about starting a trade war, as some have suggested, but about defending China's economic interests and ensuring fair treatment within the global trading system. For years, China has exercised remarkable restraint in the face of increasingly protectionist policies from the US. Despite facing numerous barriers to trade, including discriminatory tariffs and investment restrictions, China has consistently sought dialogue and cooperation. However, there is a limit to even China's patience. To understand the rationale behind China's tariffs, consider the case of soybeans. The US has long been a major supplier of soybeans to China, which relies on the legume as a vital source of animal feed. In 2017, China imported over 30 million metric tons of soybeans from the US, accounting for a significant portion of American soybean exports. However, this mutually beneficial trade relationship was disrupted when the US initiated its trade war, targeting Chinese goods with hefty tariffs. In retaliation, China imposed tariffs on US soybeans, among other products. This move sent shockwaves through the American agricultural industry, as China is the world's largest consumer of soybeans. China's tariffs are not about punishing American businesses or consumers. They are about creating a level playing field in which trade is conducted fairly and on equal terms. The US cannot be allowed to dictate the terms of trade to its advantage while expecting other nations to simply comply. China's actions are also about upholding the rules-based international trading system. The US, by unilaterally imposing tariffs and flouting World Trade Organization rules, has undermined the very system it helped to create. China, as a responsible global power, cannot stand idly by while the foundations of the global trading system are eroded. While the tariff dispute has captured headlines, China has been quietly developing another powerful tool to reshape the global financial landscape: the digital yuan. This innovative digital currency, also known as the ECNY, is not simply a digital version of the existing Chinese currency. It represents a fundamental shift in the way money is issued, used, and managed. For centuries, the global financial system has been dominated by a handful of powerful institutions and currencies. The digital yuan, with its potential to create a more inclusive and equitable financial system, represents a direct challenge to this established order. It is a bold challenge, as China announced a 1.2 trillion digital yuan starting point. And that's just the start. China's decision to develop a digital currency is a testament to its forward-thinking approach and its willingness to embrace innovation. At its core, the digital yuan is a central bank digital currency, meaning it is issued and backed by the People's Bank of China, the country's central bank. This distinguishes it from cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which are decentralized and not backed by any government or institution. The digital yuan leverages cutting-edge technologies, including blockchain and cryptography, to ensure security, transparency, and efficiency. Citizens can use their smartphones to make payments simply by scanning a QR code or using near-field communication technology. This ease of use has contributed to the rapid adoption of the digital yuan, particularly among younger generations who are accustomed to digital payments. Unlike traditional electronic payments, which rely on intermediaries like banks and payment processors, the digital yuan allows for direct transactions between parties. One of the most significant potential benefits of the digital yuan is its ability to promote financial inclusion. In China, as in many other developing countries, a significant portion of the population remains unbanked or underbanked, lacking access to basic financial services. The digital yuan, with its low barriers to entry and ease of use, has the potential to bridge this gap and bring millions into the formal financial system. For those living in remote areas or without access to traditional banking infrastructure, the digital yuan offers a lifeline. It allows them to receive and make payments, save money securely, and access a wider range of financial services, all through their mobile phones. This increased financial inclusion can empower individuals, boost economic activity, and contribute to poverty reduction. Concerns have been raised about the potential for the digital yuan to be used for surveillance and control by the Chinese government. However, it is important to note that all financial transactions, whether conducted through traditional banks or digital platforms, are subject to regulatory oversight and anti-money laundering regulations. The digital yuan is no exception. China has implemented robust privacy safeguards to protect user data and prevent unauthorized access. The digital yuan system is designed to strike a balance between user privacy and the need for regulatory oversight. Transaction data is encrypted and anonymized to protect user identities, and access to this data is strictly controlled by the People's Bank of China. Perhaps the most profound implication of the digital yuan lies in its potential to circumvent the SWIFT system. SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, acts as the central nervous system of the global financial system, facilitating cross-border payments and transactions between banks worldwide. For decades, the US has leveraged its control over SWIFT as a tool of economic statecraft, imposing sanctions and restricting access to the system to exert pressure on nations that challenge its geopolitical interests. The digital yuan, by enabling direct cross-border transactions without relying on SWIFT, offers a viable alternative to this US-centric system. As more nations adopt the digital yuan for international trade and investment, the influence of SWIFT, and by extension the US, will gradually diminish. The emergence of the digital yuan coincides with a broader shift in the global economic landscape. The existing international monetary system, dominated by the US dollar since the end of World War II, is facing growing challenges. The US's persistent trade deficits, its mounting national debt, and its increasing use of the dollar as a weapon have eroded trust in its currency. Many nations are now seeking alternatives to the dollar, looking to diversify their reserves and reduce their reliance on the US financial system. The digital yuan, with its stability, efficiency, and independence from SWIFT, presents itself as an attractive alternative. As more nations embrace the digital yuan, it could gradually erode the dominance of the dollar, leading to a more multipolar and balanced international monetary system. The combined impact of China's strategic tariffs and the rise of the digital yuan signifies a profound shift in the global balance of power. The West, accustomed to decades of economic and financial dominance, is now facing a serious challenge from a resurgent China. This challenge is not simply about economic might, but about ideas, values, and alternative visions for the future of the global order. China's economic rise has been accompanied by a growing assertiveness on the world stage. It is no longer content to be a passive recipient of the existing rules-based order, but is actively seeking to reshape it to better reflect its interests and values. The Belt and Road Initiative. A massive infrastructure and development project spanning Asia, Africa, and Europe is a testament to China's ambition to create a more interconnected and multipolar world. For many developing nations, particularly in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, China's rise offers a compelling alternative to the Western-dominated order. They see in China a nation that has successfully charted its own course to development, lifting millions out of poverty and challenging the established hierarchies of the global system. The digital yuan, with its potential to create a more inclusive and equitable financial system, holds particular appeal for these nations. It offers them a way to escape the shackles of the US-centric SWIFT system and pursue greater economic and political independence. This allure of independence, coupled with China's growing economic clout, is likely to drive the adoption of the digital yuan and accelerate the shift towards a more multipolar world. China, with its bold economic strategies and its vision for a more multipolar world, is poised to play a leading role in shaping this new era. China's bold economic maneuvers represent a seismic shift in the global power balance. The world is witnessing the rise of a new economic superpower with the financial muscle and technological prowess to challenge the established order. China aims to create a more equitable and multipolar world. The West is grappling with the reality of a more assertive China. This has led to a range of reactions, from hostility to pragmatic engagement. The old paradigm where the West dictated terms is no longer tenable. China's ascendancy is the result of decades of strategic planning and innovation. It has invested heavily in education, infrastructure, and technology. China adapts to changing global circumstances, seizing opportunities from globalization. The rise of the digital yuan, coupled with China's growing economic weight, has the potential to reshape global trade. Developing nations have long been at the mercy of a financial system dominated by the US dollar. The digital yuan offers a viable alternative, promising greater efficiency and lower costs. This shift has profound implications for international trade. It could lead to new trading blocks and payment systems, reducing the dominance of the dollar. For developing nations, this represents an opportunity to forge new economic partnerships. The digital yuan can facilitate greater financial inclusion in developing countries. Its accessibility makes it ideal for reaching unbanked populations, empowering them economically. This increased financial inclusion can unlock tremendous economic potential, driving growth and improving living standards. The transition to a more multipolar world will not be without its challenges. The existing order, despite its flaws, has provided a degree of stability and predictability to the global economy. As the balance of power shifts, there is a risk of increased uncertainty, volatility, and even conflict. Managing this transition effectively will require careful diplomacy, a commitment to dialogue, and a willingness to compromise. For China, this means exercising its growing influence responsibly and reassuring other nations that its rise is not a threat to their interests. It also requires China to continue to engage constructively in international institutions and work collaboratively to address global challenges like climate change and pandemics. A cooperative and rules-based approach will be essential to ensuring a smooth and peaceful transition. The West, for its part, must come to terms with the reality of a more multipolar world and abandon any lingering notions of maintaining its hegemony. Engaging with China from a position of strength requires recognizing China's legitimate interests and aspirations, seeking common ground where possible, and managing differences responsibly. Attempting to contain or isolate China will only be counterproductive, fueling tensions and undermining global stability. China's rise doesn't have to come at the expense of other nations, but it seems the US is trying to halt it through coercion and hostility, which affects everyone. In a multipolar world, there's room for competition and cooperation. China commits to peaceful development and win-win solutions. The Belt and Road Initiative connects nations through infrastructure and trade. The digital yuan can benefit the global economy. It can act as an anchor point for BRICS and other nations by promoting inclusion and efficiency. China has proven that it is not afraid of retaliation by slapping massive tariffs on $143 billion of US goods and introducing a new global payment system that undermines SWIFT. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.